Escalators, deaths ever. Escalators can be a convenient means of transportation every day, but they can also turn into a death trap in just a few seconds. In a crowded subway station in Chongqing, China, escalators run continuously, carrying thousands of people every day. For many people, this is just a normal means of transportation. But for a child, it can become a death machine. A 4-year-old boy, active and curious, was playing near the escalator area. The adults around were busy walking. No one paid attention. The boy put his hand on the moving handrail, as if it were a game. Suddenly, his small hand was caught in the gap between the handrail and the escalator body. The sound of friction was heard. The boy cried out in panic. The people around turned around, shocked. In a few seconds, the boy's body was pulled hard, stuck in the escalator's escalator mechanism. The boy could not escape. His small body was crushed. His cries gradually weakened as his body disintegrated in the cold steel machine. Security guards and passengers hurriedly pressed the emergency button, trying to pull the baby out. But when he was taken to the hospital, the doctor could only declare him dead. The incident shocked the whole of China, raising the alarm about the deadly dangers of public escalators. A moment of carelessness, an innocent game, and a child's life was taken away. On escalators, even a small gap can swallow a life. Wheelchair accident, Scotland. A busy afternoon in a shopping mall in Glasgow. An elderly woman, sitting in a wheelchair, was pushed by her caregiver to go shopping as usual. When they reached the escalator, they ignored the clear warning sign. Do not use wheelchairs on escalators. As soon as the wheelchair was placed on the moving steps, an imbalance occurred. The caretaker tried to hold on, but the pull of the escalator was too strong. The car shook and tilted. The eyes of the people around were panicked. In a split second, the wheelchair flipped over. The old woman was thrown, her head and body hitting the hard iron steps. Screams rang out, mixed with the sound of metal grinding. Blood stained each step of the escalator as it slid down. Staff and shoppers quickly stopped the escalator and called an ambulance. The woman was taken to the hospital, but her brain injury and multiple injuries were too severe. She lay motionless for 11 days, then breathed her last. The death caused outrage, because just a moment of subjectivity took away an already fragile life. Escalators were never designed for wheelchairs. Ignoring the warning means gambling with your life. Losing balance on the escalator. A peaceful afternoon at Marks & Spencer on Sutton High Street, London. The 4-year-old female customer, leaning on a cane, stepped onto the escalator with the usual caution. For her, this was just a small part of her daily shopping journey. As the escalator gradually brought her to the top, her pace began to slow. The woman seemed to be unsteady, her hands shaking as she tried to maintain her balance. The eyes from behind began to worry, as if sensing an impending accident. In just a moment of losing control, she fell backwards. Her slender body hit the hard iron steps. The dry sound of the collision echoed, then stopped. Blood seeped from the wound on her head, to the horror of the witnesses. Store staff and customers immediately pressed the emergency button, trying to save her. But it was all too late. The woman breathed her last breath right there, on the escalator floor where she had just fallen. The incident shocked the local community, raising questions about the safety of the elderly in public spaces. At 94, one misstep could be your last. On an escalator, a momentary loss of balance can turn convenience into tragedy. Wet market. A bustling morning at the wet market in Sha Tin, Hong Kong. A 36-year-old man with a history of high blood pressure and diabetes stepped onto the outdoor escalator. He walked slowly, like many other customers, intending to buy something and then go home. Suddenly, his steps faltered. His hands clung to the handrail. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. His heartbeat seemed to quicken, then slow down. Before the people around him could react, his body began to collapse. In an instant, he collapsed right on the moving escalator, dragging a woman standing behind him down with him. The two collided violently. Screaming echoed through the crowd. The escalator continued to swallow them down, despite the chaos. Both were rushed to the emergency room. The woman was lucky to survive with injuries, but the man, due to a serious underlying condition combined with the fall, could not make it. He died in the hospital, leaving the witnesses that morning in shock. Sometimes, escalators do not need a gap or a steel gear to take a life. Just a fainting spell, a weakened body, is enough to turn a short trip into the last journey. Fell from the escalator. Escalators, a giant toy in the eyes of children, but just a small detail like a backpack can turn joy into tragedy. In a crowded shopping mall in Chennai, a 10-year-old boy clutched his backpack tightly, innocently stepping onto the escalator with his family. For him, it was just a normal shopping trip, a weekend outing. When the escalator took him to the second floor, the shoulder strap of the backpack suddenly got caught on the moving rubber handrail. At first, it was just a light pull, but it quickly tightened, restraining the boy's body. Those standing nearby did not have time to react. In an instant, the strap pulled the baby back. Panic rose. The little hand struggled, but in vain. When he reached the edge of the floor, the pulling force was so strong that he lost his balance and fell from a height of 7 to 8 meters. A scream echoed throughout the center. The boy was rushed to the emergency room. Doctors tried for 3 days, but the injury was too serious. Finally, he breathed his last, leaving his family in endless pain. A small strap can also become a death sentence on an escalator. For children, vigilance is needed twice as much because accidents always lurk in just a second of carelessness. Woman swallowed by escalator. Behind the shiny steel shell and rhythmic movement, the escalator can hide a deadly death trap. At a shopping mall in Jingzhou, a young mother and her 2-year-old son stepped onto the escalator like any other customer. She held her child in her arms, talking as she walked, unaware that she was approaching disaster. As she approached the bottom of the escalator, a metal floor cover suddenly shook. The staff had noticed it earlier, but had not repaired it in time. With just one step, disaster immediately erupted. As soon as the mother stepped on the cover, it collapsed, pulling her lower body into the rotating steel machine. In a moment of despair, she used all her strength to push her son out, saving his life, before she herself was crushed inside. Staff and customers screamed in horror. Although they tried to stop the system, it was too late. The mother died on the spot, leaving her little child to be saved in tears. A great act of sacrifice, but also a warning. The machines we use every day are never completely harmless. Carelessness on the part of management, combined with a small loophole, can take a life.